بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Criterion of Action, Mizan al-Amal, and we have reached the sum of the virtues in whose attainment lies happiness. بيان مجامع الفضاء التي بتحصيلها تنال السعادة. Remember that this issue of happiness has been dealt with by not only Muslim theologians and thinkers, philosophers, but also by non-Muslim theologians. And the answers were different, in fact, even going back to the Greeks. And as we are reading, inshallah, we might comment on that. So, Imam Ghazali said, rahimahullah, we have established that happiness lies in purifying and perfecting the soul. And that the way to perfect it is to acquire all the virtues, fada'il. It is therefore necessary to define what the virtues are, both in general and in detail. There is another sentence in the Dar al-Minhaj edition after it is said both in general and detail جملة وتفصيلا. There's another sentence وتعرف طرق اكتسابها جملة تفصيلا, and you will know the ways to acquire them also in general and in detail. As for general sum of the virtues, one could say that they are encapsulated in two ideas. The first is sound judgment and discrimination, and the second is good character. Sound judgment, yes, and discrimination could be. How about discernment? And the second is good character, حسن الخلق. Sound judgment is required to discriminate, to discern, to decipher between the paths of happiness and misery, and to follow the former. And to believe the truth about things just as they are. Based on unassailable proofs, براهين قاطعة, that afford certitude, not weak blind conformity, or suppositions that are convincing but baseless. Good character means to eliminate all the bad habits whose details the revelation describes, and to make them detestable to oneself so that one avoids them just as one avoids all other foul things. It is also to become accustomed to good habits and to long for them, prefer them, and take pleasure in them. As the Prophet ﷺ said, "The delight of my eye has been placed in prayer. وجعلت قرة عيني في الصلاة." It's part of a hadith that is sahih, sound, narrated by Imam Ahmad and Nasa'i. The whole hadith حبب إلي من دنياكم النساء والطيب وجعلت قرة عيني في الصلاة. And I think this is important to the other part of the hadith, since we have mentioned one part. Probably it would create a balance, if you will. It reflects the other things that the Prophet ﷺ loved. So he did say, I have loved of this dunya, of your dunya, min dunyakum, which is a very peculiar way of addressing this dunya, of your dunya. Women, perfume. But then this is, so it's even much better. Now it makes more sense when we talk about that phrase. The delight of my eye has been placed in prayer, meaning the delight of the eye of the Prophet ﷺ has not been in perfume and women. He loves, but that's not really where his heart was. And like where compared to the other activities that or things that he liked. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And this is why he would say to Sayyidina Bilal bin Rabah radiyallahu anhu, أرحنا بها يا Bilal. He found comfort, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like when he would ask Sayyidina Bilal, who was the first mu'adhan. He used to make the call for prayer, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted Bilal to call for the prayer because this is the sort of comfort. أرحنا بها. This is the ultimate. This is really where it's therapeutic. أرحنا بها يا Bilal. But remember the introduction that Imam Al-Ghazali already mentioned, that you get accustomed to all the good, beautiful habits, and you long for them, and you prefer them, and you enjoy them. You take pleasure in them. If engaging in worship and avoiding forbidden things feels grueling and unpleasant, it is a sign of deficiency. Which is an impediment to the attainment of perfect happiness. It is true that persisting in them through struggle is the epitome of goodness. But this is nothing compared to engaging in them willingly and keenly. The saying, the truth is bitter like it tastes bitter, the opposite of sweet. People don't like the truth. الحق مر. So the saying the truth is bitter only applies to someone who is not yet refined, such that there are still impulses in his soul drawing him away from the truth. Therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and this indeed is difficult except for the humble. وإنها لكبيرة إلا على الخاشعين. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if you are able to work contentedly for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then do so. If not, then there is much good in patiently enduring what you dislike. إن استطعت أن تعمل في الرضا لله فاعمل وإلا ففي الصبر على ما تكره خير كثير. This hadith is part of a sound, a tradition. It's rather long. And we have a couple of, so for example, here it in the Arabic text of طبع دار المنهاج, it says إن استطعت أن تعمل في الرضا لله. There is استطعت أن تعمل لله, okay, في الرضا. باليقين also واعمل لله بالشكر واليقين. Okay. And the whole thing is that the Prophet ﷺ addressed Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, and he told him, Ya ghulam or Ya bunay, O child, O my son, don't I teach you words that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will benefit you? He said, Abdullah bin Abbas, yes, indeed, Bala. So the Prophet ﷺ said, احفظ الله يحفظك, احفظ الله تجده أمامك, تعرف إلى الله في الرخاء يعرفك في الشدة. احفظ الله يحفظك, احفظ أمر الله عز وجل. Fulfill, live up to the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fulfill what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve the law, if you will. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will preserve you. You will find him in front of you. Know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in ease. He will know you in difficulty. If you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إذا سألت فاسأل الله. And if you seek help, وإذا استعنت فاستعن بالله. If you seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وقد جف القلم بما هو كائن. The pen has dried up in the sense of that's it. It has all that is going to happen has been decreed until the day of judgment. If all people want to benefit you of something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not decree, they will not be able to do that. If all of them would like to hurt you with something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not decree for you, they will not be able to do that. Now we have the phrase that is included, and then thereafter also still another phrase, ultimately, ففي الصبر على ما تكره خير كثير, and in the other text thereafter وأن النصر مع الصبر وأن الفرج مع الكرب وأن مع العسر يسرا. So the idea is to either you are doing things, being thankful for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or simply have patience for what you might detest, uh, always within the frame of the law. Yes. Furthermore, in the quest for happiness, it is not enough to take pleasure in obedience and dislike sin at some times but not others. One should be consistent. Rather, this must be constant throughout one's life. As life grows longer, virtue becomes more firmly rooted and perfected. This is when the Prophet ﷺ was asked about happiness. He said, here it says, طول العمر في طاعة الله. He replied, it is a long life in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The whole text that was narrated, the text of the hadith that was narrated by Imam Tirmidhi, that a man asked, he said, he asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, أي الناس خير, which is the Prophet was asked about happiness. أي الناس خير, which of the people is in the best state of affairs concerning the hereafter. This is the context. The Prophet ﷺ said, من طال عمره وحسن عمله. من طال عمره وحسن عمله. He who lives long and his action, he of course is obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why the ulama would say that it is permissible to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have a long life, to increase obedience, to increase good deeds. In fact, intention is very, very important in this case, as in all action. So much so that your intention is good enough simply to wish that you have, for example, the same money like a millionaire, a billionaire, and you say, I would have done with this. You would truly say that I would have built hospitals, I would have built universities, schools, infrastructure, I would have supported. Yes, that counts. It does count as if you have done so, as long as it is sincere, it is one is true to oneself in this case. This is why the prophets and saints disliked death, for the here below is where the seeds of the hereafter are planted. الدنيا مزرعة الآخرة. The more acts of worship are performed as life grows longer, the more reward is attained, and the more the soul grows in purity and perfection, and the more deeply the person enjoys the splendor of the soul's beauty when it is detached from the ties of the body. This begins when he wakes from sleep that kept him oblivious to the state of his soul. This sleep is metaphorical, allegorical. One is oblivious. One has shifted his attention away from what is promoted here. So this begins when he wakes from sleep, from the sleep that kept him oblivious to the state of his soul, whether beauty to bask in or misery and failure to be ashamed of. This awakening comes when all distractions are cast aside. It has been narrated from Ali radiallahu anh, people are asleep, and when they die, they awaken. These then are the sum of the virtues. So this awakening comes when all distractions are cast aside. And here it is inserted by the translator, and it is true. So it is the Ali bin Abi Talib's statement. These then are the sum of the virtues. The ultimate end of this is for the virtues to issue forth from the person always, without the need for thought, deliberation, or effort, so that he views the truth without prolonged exertion. Virtue almost issues from him without his being aware of it, like a skilled artisan's mastery of calligraphy and penmanship. The ultimate end of the vices, conversely, is that vices spew forth from him without any artifice, thought, or deliberation. Know also that those virtues which are confined to a theoretical or practical art can each be attained in two ways. The first is by human instruction and an effort of will, which requires time, training, and practice, so that the virtue is nourished gradually, little by little. Just as a person grows gradually in stature, although there are some who can get by with the slightest amount of practice, as it is determined by intelligence or the lack of it. Second, is for it to be attained by means of a divine gift, such as when a person is born and becomes a man of knowledge without ever having a teacher. This was true of Isa, the son of Maryam, Yahya, the son of Zechariah, and all the other prophets who attained the mastery of the realities of things that no seeker of knowledge could attain even with study. كعيسى بن مريم ويحيى بن زكريا صلوات الله عليهم وكذا سائر الأنبياء صلوات الله عليهم. May God's peace and blessings be upon them. So we know from that Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, most of humanity, most people had a social context to learn from, but there are those who either there was no social context, like Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam. Sayyidina Adam, no social context. Meaning there are no parents, no family. He was the first. This is why it has to be an instructed beginning, a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is where it fits the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Baqarah about Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. The names of all things. And in Genesis, it is Adam who names things on his own. That is not possible. Think about the theories of language, but here it's even beyond language and also knowledge. In the case of Isa bin Maryam, alayhi salam, There was no time. I mean, it has to be, of course, it's a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a miracle, as we say. Why is this? Um, when she gave birth to him, remember that Maryam alayhi salam, she confined herself to an eastern place, and she had a hijab, like a cover, a curtain. So she simply was in seclusion, worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam appeared in anthropomorphic form. She sought refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he told her that he was there he was bringing her that news she will become pregnant of with a baby boy, and this baby boy is pure. And she exclaims, how come she's going to be pregnant when no man has ever touched her? And there also, and she's not one of those ladies. And now, when she became pregnant and she went into labor, that voice from beneath her, some scholars who in exegetes say that is Jibril alayhi salam who was speaking to her. No, cannot be the case. Impossible. It has to be Jesus Christ, peace upon him, who spoke immediately upon birth. And why is this the case? Because remember that it was not Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam who was going to accompany her to her family. Okay? She carried her own lawyer in her arms. She knew that he will speak. How did she know that he will speak, that he speaks? She pointed to him. فأشارت إليه. قالوا كيف نكلم من كان في المهد صبيا قال إني عبد الله آتاني الكتاب وجعل نبيا وجعل مباركا. So this is the issue. He spoke. He is the one who spoke to her upon birth, and she knew. I mean, now everything makes sense to her, that there's something, of course, special. And so yes. So this is when we talk about knowledge that is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Khadr, he basically, in this story of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, these three events, that Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam did not have the patience. But this man, this Al-Khadr, this wali, he had knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also. It is said that even those who are not prophets can attain this. These are the ones called saints, al-awliya. Now, this is a matter of pure divine providence, and cannot be attained through struggle. The one who is denied this should strive to be one of the second group, but know that this level is below theirs. For the one who applies kuhl, the traditional eyeliner, for the one who applies kuhl to his eyes is not the same as the one who is naturally dark-eyed. Naturally dark-eyed as if he has natural eyeliner, as this is the idea that, because when you say dark-eyed, so as if you have that kind of they do say that it's like natural kuhl. Nor should you find it far-fetched that there could be knowledge that is gifted naturally at the onset of innate disposition, but can also be attained through struggle and acquisition. For this is true in the case of character too. Many a young lad is well-spoken, truthful, and kind, although his original character was very different. This is attained through education and nurture. The last paragraph, a virtue, then is something attained naturally, other times by habit, and other times by teaching. If a person is fortunate enough to receive it from all three directions, so that he becomes a person of virtue by nature, habit, and education, he has reached the epitome of virtue. If a person receives vice from all three directions, he has reached the epitome of vice. Between these two extremes lie the levels of those who receive the various combinations of them. The next topic that we will be dealing with, inshallah, tomorrow is بيان تفصيل الطريق إلى تهذيب الأخلاق, the methods of refining character, inshallah. Until then, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.